Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. Generally like to talk a load of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a run and gun shoot 'em up game. We're going to be talking about Reload Fight for Fame, and in this game you'll be running around a map trying to kill your opponents that will give you victory points that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, we don't like. And we'll come back, we'll tell you whether or not Reload Fight for Fame is worth your time and bother today and in the future. So remember, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit. See you after this. Bollocks! So, Reload Fight for Fame. How'd you play this game? So Reload Fight for Fame is reportedly a fast-paced run-and-gun shoot-'em-up game in the vein of Battle Royale video games like Fortnite and all the other games that I fucking hate so much. First thing you're going to do is you're going to choose a map from the book. There are a load of maps. If you've got the Rumble expansion, you'll be able to play this game with 5 to 6 players and you'll have access to more maps, right? Each player is going to choose a character. I think there's 6 different characters to choose from in the core box, and there's another couple if you've got the expansion. You'll take the player sheet and each one of these players will have a special ability. You'll take a fame track, you'll put it together, and this is where your points will go. So it's a visual representation of the amount of victory points that you are going to get. There's 2 ways the game's going to end. If you manage to get your victory point tokens all the way up to the superstar level, then the game will end immediately and you will win the game immediately, right? Or if the event cards run out, the player with the most victory points will win the game, right? So once you've set up the map, each player is going to get a choice of 1 of 2 1-star weapons. These can take the form of weapons that you will hold in one of your 2 hands. You might end up getting a 2-handed weapon, in which case that's the only weapon that you can hold. You've got stuff that you can chuck in your backpack. You might get like an energy drink or something, or maybe like a grenade. You might get a helmet that you can stick on your head. Fucking dickhead. You might get some sort of armor that you could put on your body, right? In any case, you'll stick it in the correct slot and then you'll decide to parachute onto the map. You'll choose a hex that is either the center hex or a hex adjacent to the center hex, and then you'll roll 2 dice. If the dice rolls correspond to the zones that you're in, then you will land on that spot. If they don't, then you'll drift towards the zones corresponding to the numbers that you roll. On your turn, you'll get to take a variety of actions. Each player is going to get 5 dice and you'll be able to assign these dice to different action slots on your player board. First action you can take is you can move. You'll take one of your action dice and you'll turn the dice to the number that corresponds to the action slot on your player board, in which case the first action you're going to do is going to be a 4, and then this allows you to move to 1 adjacent hex. If there's an opponent's wall there, you won't be able to move through the wall, but you can move through your own wall. So the next action you can take is the activate action. This allows you to interact with the hex that you are on. You might be able to activate the mountains, which will allow you to add 1 range to your ranged attack weapon. You might be able to activate the center hex, which will allow you to drop a beacon there to get some points. Or you might be able to go to the hospital, which will allow you to heal 3 injuries. So next action you can take is a loot action. This will allow you to pick stuff up. You might want to pick up a loot box, which will allow you access to maybe 2 or 3-star weapons. Or you might want to pick up one of the beacons that you can drop off in the center hex by using the activate action, right? These will give you points for doing that. Next action you can do is you can build. You can either build a wall.
Build that wall!
Which will block ranged attacks and also stop players from moving through them. You could build a hideout which will protect you from toxic waste, make them up when you draw an event card. Or you could lay a trap, which when an opponent lands on the trap, they'll say rock, paper, scissors. You'll turn the trap over, and if they guess wrong, then they're going to get their nuts cut off by a bear trap, you know what I mean? So next action you can take is the heal action. You'll roll a die and you'll place it here. If you roll a skull die, then you will be able to heal 2 wounds instead of 1. And the final action that you can do is the hand-to-hand combat action. If you take this action, then your turn ends immediately and then you'll have a bit of a scrap. There's also actions you could take by interacting with weapons. So if you've got a huge phallic machine gun, then you can interact with that weapon to fire your load. So when you get into combat, you're going to have 2 types of combat. You're going to have ranged combat, or you're going to have hand-to-hand melee combat. You'll have to have line of sight in ranged combat, and you'll see that the weapon that you are trying to fire will have a number of white combat dice. You will roll those dice and you'll put them in your combat line in descending order, so the highest number will be at the top, right? The target player will then roll all the dice dice in their defense port and they'll put them in ascending order. And these will be slotted in between the dice that you used for your actions before you add a scrap. So when you finish your turn, you will move all of your dice from the action slots over to your combat line and you'll arrange them from highest to lowest. So these will act as sort of like a bit of a defensive shield from people that want to kill you. So if either player has got any skulls, they'll put them in the skull slot of their player board and you'll compare skulls. If the attacking player's got the highest number of skulls, they'll do an injury. And if the defensive player has got the highest number of skulls, then the attacking player will lose their lowest numbered die from their combat line. Then you'll check to see if you've got any modifiers from weapons and you'll do a risk style comparison of each combat line. The highest number in each slot will either do damage if it's the attacking player or nothing if the defensive player wins. And you'll keep going down the combat line until you've got no dice left, right? There's also a bonus step. So if your white die matches the die that's on your weapon, then you'll be able to take advantage of the bonus of that weapon. And once you complete this step, then you'll go back to taking your regular actions, right? So when you take hand-to-hand combat, it's relatively similar to this, but the defensive player will have the opportunity to retaliate. If they get a higher number in their combat line, then they will deal damage to you. So obviously you don't want to get your hands dirty too much in this one, do you? So there's also achievements that you can do. You might want to be the first player to do 2 injuries in one turn. You might want to be the player that gets the most variety of victory points. Or you might want to be the player that has the most beacons on their fame track, right? Once everyone's finished their turn, then you will draw an event card for the next round. These might dump toxic waste onto the hexes, in which case if you end your turn there, you'll have to take an injury. Or they might do some weapon drops or something. They might bring into play the level 3 weapons, which are sort of tasty, you know what I mean? Anyway, you keep doing this until either the event deck runs out or one player reaches the superstar status, and then that player will be the winner of Reload Fight for Fame, right? What do we like about Reload Fight for Fame? So the first thing that we really like about this game is that the dice management mechanic is kind of novel. We haven't really seen it floating about in other games, really. The fact that you don't roll your dice, you can actually select the number that you want, stick it there. And the fact that if you take the same action more than once, then the value of the actual action itself degrades over time, right? And this means that you're going to be weaker when it comes to defense. So it's quite a nice mechanism that we haven't really seen before. And that's what you want in board games, isn't it? You want to see fresh mechanics. So the second thing that we really like about this game is that there's a good variety of different weapons, right? And they're all stuck in different tiers. So when you start the game, you're only going to be handed like a zombicide style frying pan. But as the game goes on, you're going to see more and more 2-star weapons come out and maybe even a few 3-star weapons coming out. So you might end up with the assault rifle, and this allows you to take 3 shots before it runs out of ammo. It's going to give you 2 attack dice. It's got a range of 0 to 1. And as a bonus action, it's going to give you 1 minor injury, which means that your opponent is going to have to move their lowest numbered die down to the next number. And if they go below a 1, then that's going to count as an injury, right? Or you might have the quadri launcher. This is going to give you 4 attack dice. It's got a range of 0 to 1. You can only shoot it once per turn, but as a bonus action, it's going to give you an injury. So this is really, really powerful. Or you might want to have the military helmet. And basically what this does, it removes a skull from your opponent's player board, which could save your bacon when you're in a bit of a pinch, right? So there's a good variety of weapons in here. They all do different things. And the fact that they're staggered throughout the game, they're going to get more powerful as you progress through the game, is a really good thing, because you're not going to have somebody with a raging hard on running around the map after a couple of minutes. So the final thing that we really like about this game is that the victory points are visualized on the fame track, right? You could have just been given victory point chips and add them up at the end of the game, but the fact that you stick them on this cardboard track means you can easily see who has the most victory points throughout the game. You add to that, the general presentation of the game is really, really colourful. The artwork is really top notch, and the miniatures are quite detailed as well. Okay, they were a little bit warped when they come out of the box, so you had to stick them in some hot water to bend them into shape, which is a bit of a shitter. But generally, overall, they've really worked hard to make this game as visually appealing as they possibly could. So what don't we like about Reload Fight for Fame? So the first thing that we don't like about this is the iconography is a pile of dog shit. Not only are you going to be hunting for the icon that you need in the game, which is going to break the game down, because you're going to be sitting there thinking, well, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? But some icons have icons within icons within icons. So you're going to be looking for the first icon, then you'll be looking for the next icon that is in the icon that you've just looked for, which means that you'll have to look for another icon which affects the first two fucking icons that you've been searching for the last 15 minutes. It is a brain-numbing exercise. It breaks the game down. It means that this sort of fast-flowing, frenetic, Fortnite-style run-and-gun game just turns into like a who can find the icon quickest before we all lose our fucking marbles. So yeah, the iconography in this game is absolute dog shit. It's a fucking nightmare to teach this one because you might know what the icon does, but the other players bloody well don't. And it's just an impossible task to try and impart that sort of knowledge to them in a meaningful amount of time before the game. Yeah, so the iconography just fucking destroys the game for me, and that sucks. So the second thing that we don't like about this game, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite, I admit it, I'm a bit of a hypocrite with this one because I generally like the idea of the dice placement, right? I like the idea of assigning my dice and then the actions that I choose affect something later on in the game. And I like to be able to manipulate dice on the board. But when you're talking about a fast-flowing, highly charged game like this, you don't want to be sitting there fucking about with dice thinking, well, if I move over here, then I can do this, and then I'm left with some dice to defend myself. Maybe I could lay a trap here, or because by the time you've gone through all of your 5 actions, which most people are going to do, you're going to be wasting time. The other players are going to be thinking, I'm bored out of my fucking head. So this game doesn't really know what it wants to be. It can't decide whether it wants to be a fucking Euro or an Ameritrash game, yeah? It's tried to blend the two together. It falls apart like a load of bog roll when you've got diarrhea. So the third thing, and we're going to make it the final thing because I'm really starting to get stressed out about this, is that it's really hard to do damage with ranged weapons. In fact, it's really hard to do any fucking damage with any fucking weapon. If you're standing on top of a hill with your sniper rifle and you've got line of sight, you maybe going to roll 2 white dice at most. But because of the dice placement mechanism that everybody's been using, everyone's going to have a 4 in the top slot, more or less. Everyone will have used all of their action dice. There's not really any sense in leaving 1 or 2 behind, thinking, well, maybe I'll roll a 5 or a 6, because the chances are pretty slim, right? So you roll your white dice, you know that you've got to get 4 or higher. You don't do it. It's a 1-charge weapon, and you've wasted that action. So yeah, injuries are pretty hard to come by in this game, and the rulebook even says that everybody auto heals 1 wound after everybody's turn. If you play like that, nobody is going to ever win this fucking game because all the injuries are going to be taken off at the end of the round. That's insane. So yeah, it's really, really difficult to do any kind of damage in this game, and in a shoot 'em up game, that's what you want to do, innit? It's fucking lunacy. So to summarise, is Reload Fight for Fame worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say, no, absolutely not. This is a complete pile of dog shit. It's a fantastic idea. I must admit, I was intrigued by this game. I really, really, really wanted this one to blow my socks off without my feet in it, of course. But the execution is absolutely dreadful. Like we said before, it can't decide whether it wants to be a strategic Euro that plods along or whether or not it wants to be a chewing gum for the brain, Ameritrash fuckfest. Games like this should be fast-paced, they should be exciting, they should be frenetic and dynamic. You should feel like you haven't got time to breathe. Like Project Elite, right? They got dice in it. It moves quickly. You haven't got time to think about what you want to do because you're on a timer, but you get a chance to recharge your batteries once the timer runs out. In this, you're going to be sitting around plucking pubes out your ballsack because there's nothing to do. It takes so long for your turns to come round that the flesh will fall from your bones before you even get to think about what you're going to do next. This game is an absolute dog's dinner, a mind-numbing mess that I literally cannot even give away to anybody because nobody wants it. And as a result, you should avoid this game like a fucking clap. So there you go, that is Reload, a Fight for Fame. Remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. We'll see you next time.